Welcome back to Booster Therapy and another episode of Commanding Presence. Today we have a Brett's build for our patrons Discord. We have a Discord for all patrons, so check out the links in the description below, both for our Discord, our Patreon, and if you want this deck list, there's an easy way to click it for TCG Player. It also includes our affiliate link baked right in. But for today, we've got a deck for our patron, Darrin D. Darrin, this is a fun deck. This thing's going to be pretty deadly, and one minor spoiler, I'm still waiting for a card, but it should be here this week so I can ship it out to Darrin in time. But I did a beautiful alternate art for you that I'll also include shipped out, even though the real card will be in there once I get it. But today we're going to break down Ob Nixilis Unshackled. So for 4 and 2 black, you get a flying trample demon that's a 4/4. Whenever an opponent searches his or her library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. And whenever another creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on Ob Nixilis Unshackled. So the idea here is we're going to do a lot of either one-sided or one-sided feeling board wipes, and a lot of different ways that we're just going to take down and destroy our opponent's creatures and make Ob Nixilis a mighty beast that swings in and does some real work. So first, like every deck, we're going to start off with the ramp. Soul Ring, don't need to really explain it, it's great. Everflowing Chalice, I just like this because it's 2 mana ramp. 2 mana comes into play with a counter on it, and you can tap it for 1 going forward. Mind Stone, more 2 mana ramp. This is a mana starved deck, and black doesn't have a lot of clean ways to ramp, so any 2 mana ramp we can fit in is always a positive. Cold Steel Heart, another 2 mana ramp, just say black when it comes out. Arcane Signet, if you have a Soul Ring, you should have an Arcane Signet. They're both just so good no matter what colors you're playing. Charcoal Diamond, recently reprinted. I love the diamonds. I think they're great, especially for those non-green decks. Thought Vessel, this is another great reprint. No maximum hand size, so if we end up filling it up, getting tons of draw, it doesn't hurt us, but another 2 mana ramp. Burnished Heart, I love that this one also is something we sacrifice that can play off some of our sacrifice mechanics, but it gets us 2 basic lands into play tapped. The Thran Dynamo, the mighty, super-powered mana rock. Nyx Lotus, when you're playing a monocolored deck, this thing's devastating. 4 mana ramp that almost always at least taps for 2, which is enough value to justify it alone. But more often than not, you're getting 3, 4, sometimes even like 6 or 7 when you're getting later in the game. And of course, the Gilded Lotus, 5 mana, taps for 3 of any one color. Just another big, giant mana ramp spell. We have some big, costly spells. It's always good to make it easy for us to play them and not have to worry about it. Next, we're going to talk about how we weaponize our Ob Nixilis, how we protect him and make him bigger. The first one we have is a new card from Commander Legends. It's Commander's Plate. So with this one, it's 1 mana to get it out, which is great, but equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has protection from each color that's not in its identity. So we have protection from everything but black with this, and we can equip Ob Nixilis for just 3 mana. This is a powerhouse card for a monocolored commander. Lightning Greaves, just a pure give it haste, give it shroud, make it untargetable by all so it stays safe as he builds up and gets beefy. Black Blade Reforged, for some reason I specifically love these in mono black decks just because Corlash and all of the lore that comes with it. It's almost like Ob Nixilis has become so powerful that he's stolen the blade to beat down everyone with. Sword of Sinew and Steel, I specifically like this sword. 1, because it rounds out the 1 color we might not get protection from with Commander's Plate, but more importantly, it's just being able to destroy planeswalkers and artifacts every time we get that damage in is really useful. Sword of Body and Mind, the mill is nice, but more specifically, the protections of those colors is great. And getting the wolf tokens, again, we're going to be building up a board state that works off of sacrificing a lot of creatures. Getting tokens to make a valid target for that sacrifice is also beneficial for us. Tainted Strike, so once we get him up to being at least a 9/9, which happens shockingly quick once he's on the battlefield, we can instant speed +1/+0 and infect to kill an opponent. So everybody's like, yeah, I'm not going to block. You know, it sucks to take 9 commander damage, but it's not like it's 21, and then it's like, oops, you die. Oops, you die. So fun. Phyresis. Phyresis is like Tainted Strike, but no surprise. We're just giving it Infect. It's a nice aura to do that. Infect on a combat commander, especially Ob Nixilis, is so impactful because he gets to that 10 power like really quick, where he becomes a one-shot commander for most circumstances. And then, of course, the grafted exoskeleton, giving us our third way to ensure infect with Ob Nixilis. The upside here is the 4/4 already becomes a 6/6, and then whatever other counters you get on him only makes him more devastating. Next, we're going to talk about just a handful of just utility creatures. Creatures that play off of us working on things that are sacrificing our creatures, others' creatures, just the play on that, and some of that one-sided nature to taking advantage of that board state. The first one is Rakshasa Debaser. It's a 6/6 for 6 when it attacks. Not when it deals damage, when it attacks. Put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So, again, a 6/6 for 6 that gives us a creature our opponent sack just by the attack trigger is amazing. The Clackbridge Troll. Again, when other creatures die that our opponents control, and really any other creature, I guess, for that matter, but what our opponents control, we get 1/1 counters. So something like Clackbridge Troll, an 8/8 trample phrase with 5 mana that encourages people to sacrifice things to tap them down so they don't have to deal with it. One, it gains its life and draws its card. That's amazing. Like, it's either that or they're taking the 8/8 in the face. But it also gets that sack working, that sacrifice outlet working, and making Ob Nixilis huge. Desecration Demon, it's similar to Clackbridge Troll, less upside on the overall value, but it's the same thought that if you want to control this creature as an opponent, you got to sacrifice creatures, and we enjoy that. Ayara, First of Lockthwain, we're playing mono black, lots of creatures entering the battlefield, getting that extra value, plus it doubles as a sack outlet if we need to draw cards. The Grey Merchant of Asphodel, if you're playing mono black, I feel like you have to include this no matter what the theme is. It's super powered. It does so much work. It hits all of our opponents. It's a great card. Massacre Worm. Again, one, it's somewhat one-sided board wipe. I mean, it hits our opponents. It's not always going to wipe the board, though. More importantly, it's that drain. So many creatures are going to regularly die from a lot of what you're going to see next here. Massacre Worm continues to put us in a place of power in draining our opponents. Harvester of Souls, whenever a non-token creature dies, we draw a card, so everyone is, I mean, we benefit from our death, from their death. It's just getting us a ton of card draw. Falconwrath Noble, doubling down on those death triggers, getting to drain our opponents one by one. And then, of course, we have Draina, the Last Blood Chief. This is great for the recursion. We have a lot of non-legendary creatures that bring a ton of value into our board state, and Draina is a great way to get those back. Next, we're going to talk about our creatures and just our removal overall. Again, this deck is, in so many words, removal tribal. I mean, we are really trying to keep our opponents in check, keeping their creatures dead and benefiting from it in a lot of different ways. This package of creatures and spells really helps us do that. The first one here is the Slum Reaper. So this mechanic in general, the Slum Reaper mechanic, the Merciless, just any of these, when it comes in sacrifice, we're going to play as much as we can of that. So Slum Reaper is the first one, 4 mana, 4/2, when it enters, each player sacrifices a creature. If everyone has something to sacrifice, this takes Ob Nixilis from a 4/4 to a 7/7 just in this, or sorry, an 8/8 in just this one cycle of sacrificing. Eldest Reborn, it's the same thing. It comes into play, everyone sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. It also has that additional utility as the saga continues. Demon's Disciple, similar to what we've just talked about, everyone sacrifice. Soul Shatter, each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest CMC. Love this one. Hits 2 targets too, so it's got a little extra value. Priest of the Forgotten Gods, we can sacrifice 2 creatures. So this is where something like Sword of Body and Mind comes into play, where we can sacrifice 2 of the wolves that we don't care as much about as those tokens, get the extra value, make everyone else sacrifice creatures, losing life, and adding mana and drawing a card. So Priest is just a solid sack engine for us. The Plague Crafter, everyone sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and if they can't, they're at least going to discard. Merciless Executioner, everyone sacrifices a creature. Fleshbag Marauder, everyone sacrifices a creature. Zot's Will, everyone sacrifices a creature with the greatest power. And we can exile our opponent's graveyards if we need to, making a bunch of Thralls. And then we'll go on to just some of that standard removal. Pelakka Predation. Why this is so good is that it just takes out a swamp. When you're playing monocolored, stuff like this is incredible. In Garruk's Wake, it's a huge CMC, but you saw a ramp package. It is pretty thick. In Garruk's Wake, it destroys everything that's not ours just to open up that board to let us crack on in. Toxic Deluge, I love that we can control this. This can feel very one-sided. We can plan to make Ob Nixilis live through this, as well as just killing a bunch of things and making Ob Nixilis bigger. It's just a very powerful board wipe. In general, it is even more powerful with a deck like this. Languish, it's again playing off of that one-sided board wipe. We don't care so much about our other creatures dying. We just want Ob Nixilis to live so we can beat in and win with that commander damage. This, oftentimes, I mean, most of the time, Ob Nixilis, I mean, he comes as a 4/4, but he gets bigger quick. And then Languish helps him survive while we kill other creatures. Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, get to destroy a creature and return a creature, which, you know, oftentimes is going to be one of our everyone sacks a creature, so we're just generating this massive amount of value. Bane of the Living Dead, similar to Toxic Deluge and Languish, we can make it very one-sided, killing everything but Ob Nixilis. Feed the Swarm, we're playing mono black, and this is the only way we can destroy enchantments, so you got to include it. Defile, I love this one. When you got all the swamps out there, and we're largely just basic lands in this one, we didn't really need anything too fancy. Defile is that much more powerful. Hagra Mauling, another removal spell that only requires us to remove a swamp from the deck. And then we've got Butcher of Malak here, Grave Pact, and Dictate of Erebos. This is ensuring massive value on our Merciless Executioner plays. So when we play something where we sacrifice a creature, and it's us playing something like that, so that triggers that everyone else has to sacrifice, we have to sacrifice, we lose a creature, so then everyone has to sacrifice another one in addition to whatever one of these, if not all of these, are on the board. So could you imagine having all three of these and playing a Merciless Executioner? You sacrifice one, they sacrifice four. Disgusting, and I love it. Next, we're going to talk about a few of our just simple utility artifacts and enchantments. The first one is Black Market. Again, this thing's just ticking up because so many creatures are dying, and we get mana hungry, and this really helps us to cast things like Butcher of Malak here, like in Garruk's Wake. It ensures that we get a big, solid amount of black mana on our turns. Wound Reflection, we've got all of this life drain going on, all of this loss of life turn after turn. This just helps us double down on that. Bantu's Monument, this kind of doubles as a ramp spell for a creature, so black creatures cost one less, which is great. And whenever you cast a creature spell, we get to drain everybody for a life. Mimic That, this thing is insanely powerful for this deck. So you get any of those Plague Crafters, Merciless Executioners, they die, you exile it with this, it means every single turn you can guarantee that mechanic. Having something like this alongside of Grave Pact out literally locks the board state out almost every single time. It is very hard for any other deck to get a board state of creatures to even combat or block what you are delivering. Court of Ambition, I love the new courts, you guys. I think they're some of the best cards from Commander Legends. It gives us that card draw by becoming the Monarch, but it also has the aspect of draining opponents. Even if we're not the Monarch, we get that value where they're discarding, draining. There's just so much value in 4 mana. And then, of course, the Dreadhorde Invasion. We have a couple different ways to sacrifice creatures and just gain value out of it. This just ensures that we get a creature every turn to do that with, if necessary. Next, we're going to talk about our card draw with this deck. So some of the pieces that we use to kind of get ahead in the game. The first one is Grim Haruspex, kind of like the I can't think of his name, the Death Hoarder guy that we talked about earlier. Basically, when a creature dies, this one is more of a creature we control. When it dies, we draw a card. So the extra card draw for all the death happening, plus, you know, beautiful Seb McKinnon artwork. Mask of Memory, we're a combat-focused deck. Ob Nixilis is attacking all the time, and he does have trample, so getting that damage in is usually pretty easy. Getting to draw 2 and discard is great. Rogue's Glove, similar to Mask of Memory, just getting to draw cards when we get that damage in. Wishclaw Talisman, I love how politically driven this card is. It just can make a friend, and Ob Nixilis quickly needs to have a friend to get on your side, and making some sort of deal with this is just a very valuable card. Scheming Symmetry, it's similar to Wishclaw Talisman. It gets us some of the cards that we need to further our board state and our strategy. It has beautiful Seb McKinnon artwork, and it makes a friend that hopefully saves us a turn or buys us a turn. Night's Whisper, draw 2 for 2, lose 2 life. Just an efficient draw spell. And then, of course, Bolas's Citadel. This thing is everything good packed into one. Playing off the top of our library, using our life as a resource, and sacrificing 10 non-land permanents and killing everyone because we've already drained them so much with Ob Nixilis. Now, we've largely spoken to using Ob Nixilis as an outlet to get 1/1 counters and bigger, but he obviously has a very powerful secondary ability. Whenever an opponent searches his or her library, they lose 10 life and have to sacrifice a creature. So this means people playing fetch lands and stuff, it's already hitting them. They already have to realize that if I want to fetch for this land and actually use it, I'm going to have to cost myself 10 life, and that hurts. Or if they want to use Demonic Tutor or Vampiric Tutor or anything else, or when we use Scheming Symmetry or Wishclaw Talisman, they've got to think twice because it's going to hurt them, and we're going to advance our board state on it. There's 2 other cards in this deck that really help us play into that and control that and really lock our opponents out from anything else and getting us that win. The first one is Opposition Agent. Opposition Agent is great. We're going to encourage that search of your deck. We have 2 cards that already help us with it, Scheming Symmetry, Wishclaw Talisman. It lets us pick the card and play the card, which is crazy, and we can flash this in as a 3/2 for 3. But what it partners well with is the beautiful altar that I've prepared for Darrin today. And that is, of course, Marilyn of the Morn Song. So for a colorless and 2 black mana, those are skulls if you couldn't tell. Marilyn says players can't draw cards anymore. So see right there, no more draw. She stops you from drawing cards, and at the beginning of each player's upkeep, they lose 3 life and they can search their library for any card and put it in their hand. So that means everyone stops drawing, and at the beginning of every turn, if they're your opponent, they're going to lose 10 life for picking that card. And if your buddy Opposition Agent is out there, he's like, I'm just sneaking around and not letting them even have those cards, you're literally locking them out. They don't get to draw. You take what they would have gotten with their search. They lose 10 life, and you can play that card. You basically win unless somebody has an answer already in their hands. The true lockout, and don't worry, Darrin, this card should be here probably today or the next day when I'm filming this, and when I ship it out, it will get to you safe and sound. And that is Ob Nixilis Unshackled. This is an incredible deck to build. Like I said, it was so much fun. Your budget sits around that like $150 to $200 price range. You know, it's going to fluctuate. It kind of depends what the market's sitting at, but this is very powerful. It is very easy to build. Hopefully you all enjoyed what this video is. Make sure you check the links in the description below to learn more about this deck, to purchase the deck if you want to. I had a ton of fun playing this and play testing it. This thing was incredibly powerful. We'll do a quick shot at the lands, just a couple of Rogue's Passage, Myriad Landscape, and then a bunch of swamps. That's all it is. Easy peasy. Ob Nixilis is here. Darrin, thank you so much for supporting this, and you all have a wonderful rest of your day.